As a manga reader, going into each episode this season and not actually fully knowing what I'm getting is so much fun. What's up guys, and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to the channel, and today we are discussing episode 3 of the Hashira training arc. What was the name of the episode? Fully recovered Tanjiro joins Hashira training, I think is around what the name was. Oh my gosh, I genuinely can't remember the name of the episode. Holy frick. Is it like the longest name in the history of the show? I feel like when I saw that, I was like, this is definitely longer than normal. We're gonna discuss it, and as always, I will be splitting this video into parts. This one's gonna be a little bit different because this episode there is really not much manga comparison to go over. I will talk about that in a moment. So it's gonna focus a little bit more on a review of the episode rather than the manga comparison. And then as always, I will make my predictions for the next episode. In that part, I will dip into some future manga spoilers. So I will put a nice big manga spoiler warning before that part of the video so that if you are an anime only and you do not want to get spoiled, that is when you can turn away from the video. But before that, I will only be discussing things that have been animated. Of course, since this is about episode 3, I would highly suggest watching episode 3 before watching this video, and then we will go from there. So let's go. So starting with our manga comparison. This episode adapted 5 panels. Not chapters, not pages, panels. To show you what it was, it's literally this page and this panel. This is when we start with Muichiro. So that's all we got adapted. I'm eating this up. I absolutely loved that they went the pace in this episode. Do I think they're gonna continue this pace? Absolutely not, because if they continue to only adapt 1 page per episode, then obviously we're gonna take 25 episodes for an 8-chapter arc. However, I think that everything that was in this episode was really intentional and I really enjoyed it. But just for reference, the pages that were adapted in the manga were pretty much word for word what happened. We have Tanjiro has fully recovered and he's able to participate in the Hashira training he long hoped for. It shows him running with a smile on his face, just like we got throughout the episode. And Tengen says, hey, long time no see. I heard you fought an upper rank and you're lucky to still be in one piece. Let's knock that sluggish body awake. Tanjiro says, I'll give it my all. Though I say hello, it's been a while, eat some food. And then it goes straight to, after about 10 days, he got permission to go to the next Hashira. That is what was adapted. So if you are an anime only, you can kind of understand that this episode genuinely was 98% anime original content. So I wanted to call out a few things from the episode that I really enjoyed. This is a little bit different, like I said, because this episode genuinely was all new content for me. Because this training with Tengen is only a page long, we don't really see any of the training. He just says hello, he's happy, and then he gets sent on his way. I really enjoyed the interaction with Tengen, and one of my favorite things about Tengen is how dad-like he is towards the Kamaboko squad, specifically Tanjiro. And what I really liked about this episode at first was when Tanjiro is running up and he calls out, Uzui-san! Tengen is like, he's got this like rough face with all these NPCs, as we call them. The moment he hears Tanjiro's voice, he's like, oh, I know that voice. And he sees Tanjiro running to him, his face instantly softens like a proud dad. He's like, I've been waiting for you, Kamado. I'm so excited you're here. Let's knock you back into shape. And that is why I'm eating this episode up, is because we got a lot of these proud dad moments with Tengen towards Tanjiro, and it just makes me so happy. Couple other notes is Happy Tanjiro is something that we need to enjoy. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I love Happy Tanjiro. Tanjiro is a sunshine boy, and this is an arc where we're gonna get to see him be happy sunshine for the majority of it. Of course, there's gonna be moments here and there where it's gonna be different, but seeing him just like squatting with the rocks and lapping everyone and doing the running in place, and his eyes are shining bright and everyone's watching him and he's just so happy to be there. It's motivating. I want to go to the gym like right now because of him. And of course, Tanjiro is my favorite character, so I love to see him just in happy situations. It's really good to see, especially after Swordsmith Village, where that was probably one of the most emotional arcs for Tanjiro as a character because of the ending of the show, or because of the ending of the season. season. So it's really, really good to see him just happy-go-lucky again, but also very, very strong. He's totally showing up all these other characters, and they're just watching like, oh, this is the kind of stamina you need to not only fight an upper rank, but defeat an upper rank, which Tanjiro has now done twice. So I really, really enjoyed all of those scenes where Tanjiro's just happy. A scene that I thought was really, really good, again, this is of course anime original content, was the scene where we had those two slayers patrolling. And I was totally wrong. That when I was watching this, I was like, it's gonna be Tengen. Like, Tengen's gonna like jump out and grab them, or it's gonna be like a lone demon and these two guys are gonna die. Like, it was gonna either be a silly joke or they were gonna get eaten, and I was so wrong on both. But it's fun because I usually can't sit there and predict like this and be wrong, because usually when I'm watching episodes of Demon Slayer, I know what's gonna happen. And in this episode, I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just enjoying the fun. It was a really creepy scene where we saw the eye of 4. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about who that is because I know anime onlys are watching this. However, keep that in mind. We are going to see this character pop up a little bit more this season, and they play a very important role to come. So I really liked that reveal. Again, the scene is very intentional because it's keeping us interested in what the future brings. Yes, right now it is chill. There's no demons out. We're just training. We're able to train at nighttime, and there's not going to be any demons that jump out at us. It's a lot of fun. Everyone's smiley. Everyone's happy. But we know that that's not going to last, and Ufotable is reminding us of this way more than the manga does through this arc. Tanjiro lifting a giant man was hilarious. And also his conversation talking about what happens when you're fighting an upper moon. And I was just sitting there like, shouldn't you be like, yeah, it's kind of scary? No, he's like happily saying, yeah, you hear a pop and then you've already been slashed. But if you're alive, that means you reacted, so you feel happy. But before you can be happy about it, you get slashed again. And then maybe you'll hear a crunch because your arm is broken. And then maybe your oxygen is gonna get cut off to your brain. And then they were like, okay, we're shutting this down because we don't want to hear about this. And he's just like, la-di-da-di-da, I almost died 20 times. I'm fine. It's so Tanjiro. I'm like, man, it's kind of nice to see a character that literally is just like, you know what, I gotta take it in stride because this is what I do. I know a lot of people want Tanjiro to kind of sit in his like PTSD a little bit more, and even I sometimes feel like he needs more time to like process what happens to him. But at the end of the day, he is this way. This is his personality. He's able to just kind of take things in stride. And what's crazy is Swordsmith Village arc was so hard on him physically and mentally because of what happened in that arc. And so to see him just kind of be sitting there happy smiley again, I'm like, man, I missed happy smiley Tanjiro. I'm so happy he's here, and he's just being a silly little guy. I also liked all of the added stuff about Tengen, where the wives were talking about how, you know, he misses this, that he was not eating until everyone came down the mountain. Then they were talking to Tanjiro, and they were talking about how he is having nightmares and he's blaming himself. I think it just really showed that Tengen really, really wants them to defeat Muzan, and he's not going to be able to truly rest and be happy with his wives until that happens, because I think right now, if the Demon Slayer Corps were to fall apart and be like decimated, he would blame himself because he thinks he should still be fighting alongside them. So I really liked that development of Tengen. I think there is definitely some guilt there, but he made the right decision because I think he knows at the end of the day, if he were to keep on fighting without the arm, without the eye, he would not last even a half a second. Seeing him train these Demon Slayers to try and get them where they need to be, and of course just being super, super happy with Tanjiro, giving him a lot of extra work because he knows that Tanjiro needs that because Tanjiro's too good for his training. It was really, really just so fun to see, and a really, really intentional added bit of information about Tengen that I really liked. Okay, so let's talk about first the Giyu and Tanjiro scene. Again, I think it goes without saying this was anime original content. I think this showed just how much Giyu is already changing because he could absolutely eat more. He was just fine, and he could tell that Tanjiro was struggling, and he threw it. He absolutely gave up so that Tanjiro could win, so that he could join the training. Now we obviously know that Giyu was already going to join the training. Tanjiro cut him off when he was about to say that he was going to join. So he knows that he needs to just let Tanjiro win, but he's having a little bit of fun with him. He's poking a little bit of fun, and I love the dynamic that they're still developing between those two. As I've said in my previous videos, the dynamic between Tanjiro and Giyu is my favorite in the show, so I really like that they're expanding upon that as well. And seeing that Giyu is literally just like kind of playing with him and making him compete for it, but also giving up knowing that he just needs to join the training and making Tanjiro just be super happy. Also, a side note, that character sitting next to them never moved and it was hilarious. It was literally like the entire time they were sitting there eating, their chopsticks were frozen in their hand and they could just not take their eyes off of the amount of food that these two men were eating. It was so funny. Like, if you go back and watch, literally that character is just sitting there like, the entire time. It's hilarious. Sanemi and Obanai. So I really liked this scene. There was a lot of conversation amongst manga readers talking about if Ufotable was going to add more content about the Infinity Castle, because in the very first episode when they found themselves there, that did present a little bit of the possibility of a plot hole if it was not brought up again, because in the manga they don't see it at all at this point in the story. So to see them bring it up again and have it be kind of making them a little bit nervous, like the two of them were very much like talking about how it could be a bad omen, that it definitely seems like demons aren't here because they're gathering and it's going to be a full-on war ahead of us. And for them to be able to kind of talk through that is definitely bringing back that and making sure that it's not a plot hole. So I really like that they did that. It also, again, it's just a scene that's reminding us, hey, we are enjoying this time with these characters, but we got things coming. You're gonna miss this happy little training arc. Okay, so finally, I have to talk about Tanjiro versus Tengen, or I should say Tengen versus all of his trainees. Tanjiro just happened to be the only one who could even lay a finger on Tengen. I really liked this additional scene. This was such a fun dynamic. I felt, first of all, like the animation and the soundtrack was spectacular, and it was just so good to see a little bit of action. But also, I loved what this just represented. I loved how all the other Slayers were like, we're watching an exchange of blows between two people have not only fought an upper rank, but survived that. And they're just like, oh my goodness, this is insane. It was so cool to see. I also like that they showed that Tanjiro really couldn't still actually defeat Tengen, because a lot of people are saying that he should be a Hashira, he should be a Hashira, and we're being reminded that he's still, while he's gotten a lot stronger and he's done some feats that could mean that he could become a Hashira, he still like can't defeat a retired Hashira with a missing arm and eye. And while he was the only one able to hold his own and he was able to go toe-to-toe with him, he couldn't actually defeat him. So Tanjiro is still not quite ready to actually be a Hashira. While he's getting there, he's absolutely close. I would assume that he is probably finally at that position. I think it's Kinoto, which is right before Hashira. So we would assume that's his rank at this point. So if he were to now go and defeat a 12 Kizuki, which of course would be an upper moon, he would become a Hashira. So he just needs that one last step and he's ready to go. But this was such a fun little scene. I love how proud Tengen was. I also love that when Tanjiro like stepped in and actually was able to block something from Tengen hitting the guys around Tanjiro, and he finally was able to protect the people around him like Tengen told him to do. It was such a strong exchange of blows that there was wind and everyone was like blown back. That was not just because Tengen was super strong. That is also because Tanjiro's block was that strong, that it just caused everyone to get blown back. That's how strong that exchange was. And I loved that like visual of how strong these two characters are compared to everyone else. Of course, Tanjiro is our main character, so he's stronger than all these other random NPCs, but it was good to see just how strong he's become, but still how far he still has to go. And then finally, we have the Tanjiro effect as we see all these characters once again. They see how hard he's working, how good he is, and how much just better he is than all of them, how much harder he works, how happy he is to be there. And they are now going to use that motivation to get as strong as they can. While they don't still think that they could actually defeat an upper rank, which they're probably correct in thinking that, they at least know now that they can support Tanjiro, that they can support the Hashira, and they can see that these people truly could do that. And I loved that little added bit as well. Again, very intentional. So I think Ufotable just did a spectacular job. Really looking forward to Muichiro next week. Of course, we got to see him be a little sassy fighter once again as Tanjiro arrived before we moved into our Taisho secret. Which I just have to say, when Tanjiro said, "What a wonderful husband and wives," I spit out my drink. That was just such a funny line to me. And I think he actually just said like, "What a wonderful family." I don't know why our translation specifically said husband and wives, but that was freaking hilarious. I don't know why it was so hilarious, but it was. Overall, this episode was so much fun. I really enjoyed it. I give it an 8 out of 10. It's not like it was anything absolutely spectacular, but I'm really just enjoying this time. I am someone who really prefers the high intensity fight scenes, the high emotions, the life or death situations. I always gravitate towards those kinds of seasons. I am someone who can sit here and say Entertainment District was my favorite arc, and it is so far, because I really enjoy just the high intensity, the hype, the animation, everything about it was just 10 out of 10 for me. But I can still sit here and enjoy this arc for what it is. I'm setting myself up with the expectations that there's going to be a lot of dialogue, there's going to be a lot of character interaction, and there's not going to be a ton of like crazy reveals, there's not going to be a ton of crazy fight scenes. It serves a purpose. This is not a filler arc. This is not an arc that you should be skipping. However, it is an arc that serves its purpose in a different way than all the other arcs. So we just need to enjoy it while it's here. And it's going to be over before we know it. We're already almost halfway through the season. So it's going to be over. We're going to kind of miss it. And then we're going to be going into the next arc, which we're going to look back and be like, man, I wish I kind of enjoyed this for a little while longer. But that is it for my review. Again, not much manga to go over. I already did it. So really looking forward to what they do next week. It's fun to go into these episodes each week with a question mark because I don't know exactly how they're going to adapt it. It makes it interesting for us manga readers, and I'm really enjoying it. Alright, so now let's talk manga spoilers and what I think is going to be in the next episode. I will admit I was super off on my predictions last week, so don't trust me on anything. I thought they were going to get all the way to Obanai. We did not even get to Muichiro, really. We just saw the very beginning of it, so I was not expecting them to make an episode of 98% original anime content. That being said, I don't think they really have time to do that again. I think that they did that because Tengen is someone who is a fan favorite and there was a lot of opportunity for story buildup in that moment. But because we just finished a season that we spent a lot of time with Muichiro and Mitsuri, since Mitsuri is after Muichiro, I think we are going to get through both of them in this next episode and possibly even the beginning of Obanai. There's just a little bit less opportunity to just keep adding all of this fluff training because we got so much of the fluff training in the last episode. I don't think we need necessarily a ton more. So because Muichiro and Mitsuri are very fleshed out characters already and they just got it in the last season, I think we are going to see both of them in this next episode, and then we'll move into Obanai, which means we will still be probably in chapter 132 when the next episode ends, but it's going to be paced a little bit quicker. It's not going to sit quite as long. Do I think we're going to get all the way to Sanemi? Because Sanemi is at the end of this chapter, of chapter 132. We will see. There is a lot of story development when we get to Sanemi, just outside of just training because of the situation with Genya. That whole situation doesn't take very long though. It's just like a, hey, they meet in the hallway, Sanemi wants to take out his eyes, Tanjiro comes in for defense, an entire brawl breaks out, Tanjiro is then told he can't see Sanemi, he has to move on to Gyome, and we move on. I don't think they're going to really add a ton to this because the Shinazagawa brothers still have development to come that's really big. I think what they're gonna do is these characters that have a lot of development still in coming arcs are still gonna get like not as much original content. Tengen got so much original content because this is the kind of the end of his story. We're still gonna see him here and there, but he's not gonna be fighting in the final battle. He is there, but there's not really much else to have with him. Obanai still has backstory to come, Sanemi still has backstory to come, Gyome has backstory in this arc. So I think we're gonna kind of get through Muichiro and Mitsuri fairly quickly because we just got their backstory. he also gets through them even faster. I think he was 10 days with Tengen, but he was only like 4 days with Muichiro. So it's going to show that he's kind of picking up the pace and he's moving quickly through these. Do I think we're going to get to Sanemi in the next episode? I'm going to just say sure. We'll end the episode with him arriving at Sanemi, which is pretty much the end of the chapter. Yeah, I guess that's going to be my best bet. Don't believe what I say because I was way off the mark in this most recent episode. However, like I said, I genuinely do think they have to pick the pace up now. They cannot continue to do the pacing that they did in this past episode. This was kind of an anomaly, I think. So we'll move along a little bit faster, but we're still probably not even going to finish the chapter that we're in. If I had to pinpoint the exact moment this episode is going to end, I'll just say it's going to be with this panel where Sanemi is like looking at them menacingly and says, choose, return to training or die. Because that'll introduce Zenitsu back to the story too. That feels like a good spot, but we'll see. But that's about it for today's video. Again, I really enjoyed it. If you're feeling like this is a boring season, just take it for what it is. It is called the Hashira training arc. It is a training arc. And we're getting a lot of fun added content anyway. It's just an enjoyable experience. Enjoy it while it lasts. With that, that's it for today's video. So if you liked the video, please like this video. Also subscribe to my channel. I post these videos every Monday following the new episodes, so you get to see a little breakdown of the manga and the anime. Also hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever I post new videos. You can also follow me on social media. I am @LookingNerdy on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. I keep forgetting it's called X, even though it's been that way for a while. And with that, I say, Johnny!